Welcome to this week's episode of the Disruptive Franchise Podcast. This week, we are going to be talking all about why your franchise recruitment pipeline is inconsistent. And it's probably not the reason that you think I'm going to say. First of all, let me set the picture for you. So, I work with a huge amount of franchisors. I get to stick my head into so many different franchisors' business. And whenever somebody books a call with me, I always go and have a little deep dive on what they're doing before we get on the call. And what I see, the real reason that people are inconsistent is not one particular thing, but it's many things. So you as a franchisor right now, you are spinning all the plates. You are trying to keep your franchisor or franchisees supported and happy. You're trying to innovate within the service or the product that your franchise provides. You're trying to keep your head above water as a franchisor, and you're probably juggling an awful lot of life outside of that. So all these plates that you're spinning, you're going to be running to the points that need you the most. And with the franchise recruitment, it never screams at you. You look at it late at night on the spreadsheet and kind of go, oh, I really need some more franchisees. I need the cash influx. But during the day, when everything's on fire around you, or your notifications are going off, or, you're on a conference or whatever you're doing in the daytime, you're not sitting there thinking franchise recruitment's on fire, and not in a good way. So that's a big reason. That's kind of what's happening. The other thing that's happening is you are probably, because of what I just said, kind of chucking mud at the wall and hoping that it's something sticks. A couple of years ago, we used to be able to put out ads and Facebook posts and things like that and say, come buy my franchise. Franchise for sale in your area, Okay. Even up to like 12 months ago, we could put out an ad campaign at least and bring in some decent leads, but everything's changed. And because you're so busy, you probably haven't got enough time to keep up with all of the changes that are happening. So you're still doing a lot of what worked before, but you know in your heart that it's not working now. You know that your numbers are not consistently, pulling in leads. You know that something's not quite working, but you haven't got the time to sit with it and figure it out properly. So you just know that something's not right. This leads me into the other thing that I'm pretty sure is probably happening in your business right now. And that is you don't know your numbers. Let's sit with that for a minute. You don't know your numbers. You don't know how many leads you're getting a month. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what the call conversion rate is for getting them on a call. You don't know what your conversion rates are. So how can you improve them? And I see this all the time. People come onto a call with me and they're like, Stacey, this is happening. Okay, great. How many leads are you getting a month? Is it a lead generation problem? Well, I don't know. Well, if you're getting the leads, how many people are going through your pipeline? Well, I don't know. If you don't know your numbers, you cannot improve anything. So that's another really big thing that we see a lot with franchisors, because you're busy. And it all kind of comes down to you're busy. I get that. But the reason that your franchise pipeline isn't consistent isn't just because of one thing. Like I said, it's many, many things. And so what you're probably feeling is that you don't have time to do the follow-ups, that you don't have the leads coming in the first place, that nothing's converting. And a little bit of panic sets in and we kind of go, that's a big problem. Feast or famine is happening right now. You're in feast or famine right now. And chances are, unless you're doing something exceptionally different, you're probably in the famine part of the feast. I speak to a lot of franchisors who, no one wants to talk about this, I get it, but a lot of franchisors who haven't recruited somebody for well over 12 months. If you haven't recruited new franchisees in the last 12 months, you have a big red flag there. Not just because you're lacking the cash influx, but it's also leaving your franchise at risk. Okay, the whole network is at risk if you are not recruiting new people. And if you don't have a consistent lead pipeline, you can't recruit new people. And the reason that it's such a big risk, and the reason that I say that you're in decline if you're not bringing new people in, is because you'll have people in your network right now who are not going to renew their contract. So when they hit franchise renewal and they leave, you're then in decline straight away. And that is a really, really rocky place to be as a franchisor. I've sat in that position. It feels awful, because what it also does is it starts to make you feel like I'm not cut out for this. I'm going to look at other things. I see a lot of franchisors who kind of have built a network quite nicely, but instead of continuing to grow, they go, oh, there's something else I'm going to do now. I'm going to go do this other thing because it's a nice distraction from the fact that something's wrong in your franchise. Whereas actually, if you double down on growing your franchise, be happier anyway, because you'll have the cash coming in. You can build out an exit plan if you don't want to be there long term. There's so much you can do, but without consistent pipeline being full, you don't have anything to really build that future on. So I get it, is what I'm saying. I really do. I get it. And it makes you feel rubbish. And nobody wants to talk about it. We all talk about how it's hard. But it's so hard. I've been hearing for about 18 months how hard it is to recruit franchisees. And I get it. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's also not as hard as I think the market feels that it is at the moment, if I'm completely honest with you. So what do we do about it? The problem feels too big for you to resolve it. It feels too expensive to outsource it, probably. There's a fear there because if the money's not coming in, you don't have the money to spend. And this is so symptomatic. You have to speculate to accumulate and all of that, right? But actually, hard line, if you're not bringing enough money in, you can't go spend it. So franchise recruitment is such a big thing in terms of being able to improve the franchise and improve the recruitment itself, ironically. So if the problem feels too big, if I've just described any of what you're feeling, I've got some practical things for you. In terms of how we do it, there's a lot in there. Of course there is. And every franchise is going to be slightly different. Okay. Everybody does a different thing. Everybody's franchise is different, but working with so many franchisors, there's some problems that I see that we can kind of group together. And I think the first one is very much if it feels too big because you haven't got time, because you haven't recruited a franchisee in like the last 12 months, you feel like a failure, nothing's working. I want you to be really honest with yourself. Nothing's working is a big statement. What have you tried? And in what you've tried, have you given those things long enough to work or not? Have you actually given, an extended period of time to paid ads or to consistently producing video content or consistently posting? Or is your franchise message getting just completely lost in the rest of what you're posting about classes or franchisee success or whatever? Is your message clear enough? So if it feels too big, if all of that is kind of where you're sitting and you're like, oh, can't climb out of it, then start with marginal gains. How can you make just a 1% gain? If you're running ads, how can we get that lead flow working just a little bit better? If we're getting rubbish quality ads, okay, do we need to change the messaging on the ads? Are we being visible enough? Okay, maybe you can't be visible 100% of the time because your franchise is one part of your bit, like selling your franchise is one part of the messaging, but can we just turn up that messaging a little bit? Can we make it more clear? Can we make it more focused? So where can you find that 1% marginal gain? And if that doesn't sound like very much, that 1%, it's more important than you think. Okay, in sales, we track the numbers and we look at how we can optimize. When I worked at BT, my whole job, my whole TV and sport team, our sole purpose was to optimize that website. Change the color, does it improve? A/B testing on emails, tiny little tweaks that get big results because those results compound over time. So can you just find a marginal gain? If you don't believe me, any Premier League football club, okay, they're not trying to change the whole squad if it's a long-term strategy. They're looking at 1% gains. Can we improve the player nutrition? Can we improve the quality of the pitch? Can we improve the quality of the atmosphere before the games happen? Okay, you can't just bulldoze a whole club and start again. This is why new Premier League football managers fail very quickly. So in terms of franchising, you don't have to rip up the rule book. What can you just tweak, test, measure? Test and measure is key here. You have to know your numbers. I don't ever want to get on a call where someone goes, oh, I don't know. You shouldn't be in that position. If I say to you right now, how many leads did you get last month? If you don't know, you're obsessing probably at the wrong thing. You're probably obsessing with, oh, that social media post only got 300 likes again, right? Obsess with, okay, we've got 78 leads this month. Next month, we want to hit 85. Obsess about the right metrics. It will change everything, I promise you. The other thing is building consistency. I know consistency is really hard, but this is a key reason why your pipeline is inconsistent. It's because your output is inconsistent. You cannot expect to get the leads in if you are not out there pulling them into you. We are in a trust recession right now. The economy is a complete state. That doesn't mean people aren't buying franchises. What it actually means, in a lot of cases, is that people are being made redundant, or, there's a huge amount of youth unemployment at the moment. It's not because these people are lazy and out of work. They want to work. A franchise is a great solution. Are you positioning your franchise to be that solution for them? Or are you just kind of going, well, franchise is hard. It's hard. It's really hard. There's no one around. How many millions and billions of people are there that can come and buy the franchise? So it's such a wide pool. So looking at how can you build consistency to reach those people? If you just did one video post a week about franchise recruitment, and you kept every single week to that one post, that's consistency. We think consistency is like every day I've got to do more. It's not. You don't have to do more to attract the right people. What you have to do is turn up. You have to be there. You have to be consistent because people are watching you. And if you're not consistent, they can't hook in. They can't be like, oh yeah, really, this is for me. Because if you only talk about your franchise once every couple of months, you're not going to hit the right people that you need. And this brings me on to the next reason that your pipeline is probably not full consistently. It's because you're possibly not talking to the right people. As long as I kind of ask people what your metrics are, I also ask them, who's your ideal franchisee? If you're really vague with who that ideal franchisee is, your brain thinks, well, I'm going to catch more people. I'm going to cast that really nice wide net. And if I'm really vague, then actually more people will come. But actually, if you talk to everybody, nobody will listen. If I stand in a field of people and I shout, someone get me an ambulance, I might get 10 ambulances. I'll probably get none because I'm not talking directly to a person. And I really want you to remember this point, okay? If I say, hey, you in the blue shirt, get me an ambulance, well, he's going to listen and he's going to get me that ambulance, right? Because I've talked directly to him. He knows I'm talking to him. I can't be talking to anybody else. And your franchise recruitment marketing has to be that direct, okay? Maybe it's not a blue shirt, but stop trying to cast the net so wide that you become obscure in who you want. Make sure that you're targeting specific profiles. You can have a couple of profiles if you need to, but specific characteristics, pain points, because their activations are going to be different. The guy in the blue shirt probably wouldn't be motivated by a purple shirt sale, but he might be really motivated by the fact that this blue shirt's on discount. Why? Because he's got an identical characteristic and I can hook into that and go specifically and tell him that he might like it. How do we apply that to franchise? Exactly the same. I'm not looking for, someone who fancies changing their job. I'm not looking for someone who's recently been made redundant and doesn't know what to do. I'm looking for a specific person. And that, I think, is probably the number one reason why the leads are inconsistent for most people. Because you're not talking directly to the right person often enough. It's really simple. None of it's hard. But we do have to be strategic behind it. You can't just show up on a Monday and be, I just bought a coffee and I'm going to go and have a good day and I'm going to go set up for class. That's not going to pull people into your franchise. You've got to be intentional about what it is that you're putting out. And a really great way of building consistency and trust really quickly, if your time's short, is video. Okay. I mentioned that trust recession so many times on this podcast now, but people are less trusting. They need to see you. They need to see you talking to them. It's not, hey guys, it's hey you. And that's such a shift, tiny shift, but such a big marginal gain. Haven't put it all together. The other thing is make sure, if you haven't recently, that your ideal client, your ideal franchisee profile is correct. Yes, you might want ex-teacher, you might want teachers. Okay, let's say you want teachers. It's really difficult to get a teacher to leave their job right now because yes, the education system is, an absolute nightmare. But teaching jobs actually are quite tricky at the moment. Okay, there aren't, schools with loads of budget. So if somebody's in a secure teaching job, the chances of you wrenching them out of that with your franchise because they can work flexibly is pretty much zero. If you want teachers, look at the skill set that teachers have. What is it about the teacher? Is it the teaching experience? Is it the, behavioral management? Is it the fact that, that they need a specific qualification? Well, who else has those things? Loads of people have those things. Okay. Or maybe rather than looking to pull people out of school, maybe you're looking at ex-teachers or teachers that have been made redundant. So how can you cast that net a little bit wider, but still being specific? We talk about that ideal profile. Years ago, Woolworths had Debbie. Debbie was their ideal customer. They knew that she came in on average about 2.5 times a week. She had 2 kids. Her average basket spend was about 20 quid. And she generally bought toys and homeware stuff. That's how well they knew her. That doesn't mean that Sandra didn't go in and spend £60 once a month. But they really focused in on, what do we need in our shop that's going to attract Debbie in? So who's your Debbie right now? And be open-minded enough that your Debbie right now might be different to Debbie in the iteration that she was in a year ago. So those are the things that I really believe are fundamental, so important. But because they're so important, we forget about them. Oh crap, it's Tuesday. I haven't put a post out for a week. I'm just going to do this thing. Hey, come buy my franchise. It's great. Or this is what my franchisee did last week. Come and be a part of that. It's not enough to build consistency. So if you want to stop having inconsistent pipelines for your franchise leads, if you want to convert more franchisees, you need to show up intentionally. You need to look for those marginal, just 1% gain. You need to be really focused on who it is that you're trying to attract. And you need to be consistent, because you can't ask for consistent leads if you're not being consistent with yourself. That's it for this week. Hope you've enjoyed the episode. Let me know on social media what you thought and what your biggest takeout is. Hopefully there's one of those things in there that you can go implement right now, this very week, and get an improvement in your lead flow. That's it for me. I'll see you on the next one.